We're set up out here at a 50-yard range, just a very, very light wind. Got two rifles here, the Remington 5.97 and this Ruger 10/22. It's time for a little matchup. We'll call it the grudge match. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to finally make the video that many of you have been asking about. The grudge match between the Remington 5.97 and the Ruger 10/22. Let's do a quick recap of the upgrades these have received. Here's the basics for the Remington 5.97. Now, the scope is the Nikon P rimfire, the trigger is the Volquartsen target hammer upgrade, along with the extractor trigger spring upgrade. Now, here's some basics for this Ruger 10/22. Now, the scope is a Vortex Crossfire 2. It's got the Deadhold BDC reticle in it, and the trigger is the Ruger BX trigger upgrade, so pretty comparable upgrades. Now, the ammo we're using is some common stuff I pulled out of the safe. You got your Winchester Super X, the Federal Auto Match, the Norma TAC-22, the Aguila Super Extra, and the CCI Stingers. Now, I know there's a lot of different kinds of ammo you guys would like to see, but let's start with these five. Here's the Remington and the Ruger magazines together. I do like the Ruger rotary magazine the best. Let's start things off with the Remington 5.97. Here's our Nikon sight picture, as best I could do with the camera. Let's send a few more. Here we're shooting the Aguila Super Extra 40 grain. Let's speed this footage up just a little bit so we can get to the groups and measure them out and just kind of compare the two groups from each rifle. Let's check out the results of the Remington 5.97. First up, we have this Federal Auto Match 40 grain. Not quite the best. Here's a quarter for scale. Let's measure this group here. Looks just under 1.5 inches. That's okay. Now let's check out the lighter and faster CCI Stingers. They're coming in at 32 grains. Got a little string here and one flyer. Now these are impacting higher as expected due to the lighter projectile. Let's see, it's about the same as the Federal Auto Match both ways. Now this Norma TAC-22 turned out to be the star of the show. And cover this group with a quarter. Pretty good. This little group's going to measure out at just under 1 inch. Not too shabby. The Ruger 10/22 had pretty much equal success with this ammo. I really like it. Next up is the Aguila Super Extra 40 grain. Also did quite well. Had a little flyer there, but pretty good little cluster. Going to measure out 1.25 inches-ish. Something like that. Now let's move on to an age-old favorite, the Winchester Super X. Not too shabby. Let's measure it out. Looks to be about 1.5 inches. Not too bad, but not as good as that Norma TAC-22. That stuff was stellar. Now it's time for the old Ruger 10/22. Here's your sight picture with the Vortex. I kind of like it a little bit better. The Ruger seemed to like this Federal ammo a little bit better than the Remington rifle did. There's always a flyer. Let's check out the Ruger's results, then we'll do an even closer comparison. Nice little group with this Federal Auto Match and the Ruger. Not a bad combo. Let's see how it measures up. Right at 1 inch or just under. Pretty good. Now for the high-flying CCI Stingers. A couple rounds went to the same hole, but we did have that high flyer right there. We're measuring out to about 1 inch, but about 2 inches if you count that flyer. Now I do like the CCI Stingers when they're dialed in. They can really pack a punch. Next up is our superstar of the day, the Norma. This stuff just kicks some butt. Both rifles like this ammo equally well. I think I'm going to order a case of it. Next up is the Aguila. Look at that, another score for the Ruger 10/22, just under a quarter. Going to measure out just at 1 inch. Pretty good stuff. Now, last but not least, the Winchester Super X. Got a nice little clover leaf there and a couple outliers. We're going to measure out to about 1.5 inches here. So far, that Norma's still on the show, with the Aguila as a close second. Now let's compare the targets side by side and pick a winner. The Federal Auto Match, it's pretty clear that 10/22 gets this one. A really nice tight group. Next up is CCI Stinger. There's a flyer on each one of these groups, but I'm going to have to give this to the Ruger 10/22 as well. Just a tighter group. This next one's kind of tough. I think I'm going to give this one to the Remington 5.97, but you know what? That Norma TAC-22 just was the best out of all the ammo that I used today. A close second is this Aguila. I'm going to have to give this one to the Remington 5.97 as well. Comment below if you think I'm wrong, but I think I'm going to give it to the Remington. The Winchester Super X, I'm going to have to barely give this one to the Ruger 10/22. I think that's just fair. Got a tighter little clover leaf right there. So between these two, I'm going to have to give just barely the win to the Ruger 10/22. Now, I gotta say, I am partial to the Remington 597 because it's the rifle that my dad got me when I was a kid. But this Ruger 1022 is the rifle that I put together for my daughter for her first rifle. So I love both rifles, but the testing is not over. We gotta go to 100 yards and beyond with these rifles, and things may be a little different next time around. So the Ruger barely won the day in this casual backyard shooting contest, and I'd love to hear y'all's comments, thoughts, good, bad, and ugly, whatever you want to say about this whole thing. We'll see if the tables can turn in the next phase of this grudge match, but until then, y'all have a great day, stay safe.